What's up guys, it's Zero here bringing you all a brand new Gears of War Reloaded video, so let's get into it. So guys, I came across a really interesting article, and this is an article that came out from Tom Wilson of MSN stating Gears of War Reloaded might actually be terrible news for fans, especially if you're playing on Xbox already. The announcement of Gears of War Reloaded was pretty exciting in the moment, especially as we were coming down from the exceptional high of Oblivion Remastered shadow dropping out of nowhere. However, the more that I've thought about it, the more I'm not convinced it is a good idea, especially as practically every aspect of it is negative for the majority of fans. It is particularly bad for those who've long since been invested in the Gears of War franchise, which naturally includes me. While Gears of War remasters were hugely anticipated, what we've gotten with Reloaded isn't particularly impressive, either from a technical standpoint or perhaps more importantly, a consumer one. Fans may flock to the new remaster as it offers them another way to enjoy a classic, and newcomers, especially those on PlayStation, will see it as the perfect entry point. However, Reloaded potentially marks the start of something negative, especially for fans and even for those who decide to get into it now. When he says that Reloaded isn't particularly impressive, we haven't even seen gameplay yet, guys. So I'm not going to be super critical about Reloaded as of yet. I mean, sure, we've seen some pictures, and I've already said on numerous videos at this point that I'm not a fan of the Gears of War Reloaded main cover art. I think that Marcus Phoenix looks like a Fortnite character. He does not look like a badass like he did back in, Gears of War 2006. So I'm a little bit critical of that, certainly. But when I look at some of the still images that they took compared to Gears of War Ultimate Edition, Gears of War back in 2006, it's definitely an upgrade from Gears of War in 2006. It's a slight upgrade, Gears of War Ultimate Edition, but it's not earth-shattering. But the point is that Gears of War Reloaded is actually more for PlayStation than it is for Xbox users, because we've already played Gears of War 1 multiple times. This is more utilized to promote, Gears of War to PlayStation people who have never played Gears of War before. Fans have long been anticipating some form of Gears of War remasters or remakes, especially for the second and third entries in the initial trilogy. The original Gears of War was actually already remastered back in 2015 under the Ultimate Edition moniker, which is what Reloaded is based on. That means you've already played Reloaded if you've tried even a second of the Ultimate Edition remaster on PC or Xbox. However, Gears of War Reloaded's existence probably means that we won't be getting a Trilogy Remaster, at least how fans may prefer. Now, what I'll say about that, guys, is, look, I believe we are going to get a Trilogy Remaster, but it's not going to be the Gears of War collection, which is what we were initially thinking or hoping for. What Xbox and what the Coalition is going to do, more than likely, is they are going to release, obviously, Gears of War Reloaded in August. Then they're going to release a Gears of War 2 Reloaded, probably in a couple of years, and then a Gears of War 3 Reloaded, which would be obviously a remaster of Gears of War 2, and then Gears of War 3, respectively, in different years. Like, for example, we'll get Gears of War Reloaded this year, Gears of War E-Day comes out in 2026, and then a year or two after that, you have Gears of War 2 Reloaded, and then a year or two after that, you get Gears 6, and then Gears of War 3 Reloaded, and then Gears 7, or however they decide to do it. I think that we're definitely going to get a Trilogy Remaster, but it's just not going to be in the form of a collection where it's all three at once. It's going to be, they're going to kind of spread it out to make sure that, we have Gears content consistently over the next number of years. Obviously, we've been in somewhat of a dark age of Gears of War at this point. Since Gears 5, it's been, 6 years since we had any Gears content? They stopped support of Gears Esports. They stopped support of Gears 5. And we've been kind of in the dark. And so at the end of the day, I think that them spreading it out instead of putting it all into one collection, yeah, it would be awesome to have it all right now in one collection, but them spreading it out makes sure that we're going to have content for years to come. There have been rumors of a Gears of War Trilogy collection circulating online for a while now, but it seemed like a sure thing. It seemingly made the most sense to release the first three in one go, considering their age and the fact that the Ultimate Edition already exists, meaning less work would need to be done to bring the whole trilogy to next-gen consoles. However, while fans may have preferred to pay one price for all 3 games, the fact that Xbox released the first game remastered individually means it likely will with the rest. Xbox will, if it is indeed thinking of remastering all 3, release an individual remaster for the second and third game and charge the same price, or potentially more for each of them. It wouldn't make much sense for Xbox to release the first Gears of War game as a remaster and then a trilogy as a separate purchase, as it would render the first game completely invalid. Instead, Xbox will, if it is indeed thinking of remastering all 3, release an individual remaster for the second and third game and charge the same price or potentially more for each of them. Of course, that means that those wanting to play each remaster will need to be ready to spend quite a lot of money. Now, I do agree with this paragraph. They will certainly, with Gears of War Reloaded coming out, they're going to release Gears of War 2 Reloaded or Gears of War 3 Reloaded, as all separate games. They're not going to combine them more than likely. So I do agree with that. And I do think that they probably will not all be $40 remasters. Obviously Gears of War Reloaded will be a $40 remaster, but with the price hikes that just happened or announced over at Xbox and Microsoft as a whole, I think that it's reasonable to expect that those other remasters will be a higher price tag. Gears of War Reloaded will cost $39.99 just like the Ultimate Edition did when it released back in 2015. That may seem fairly inexpensive, especially by today's ridiculous $80 price tag standards, but it isn't that cheap in the long run. If each game costs $40, providing that any potential remasters of the next 2 games don't add any additional content or require more work that, in turn, boost the price, then players are looking at spending $120 for the entire trilogy remastered, rather than even $80 for a trilogy collection. While some diehard fans may be willing to pay $120 for a trilogy of games that released nearly 2 decades ago and look and run slightly better now than they did before, I find it hard to believe that the majority of consumers will fork out for all 3 games, especially if they've already played them on Xbox or even PC via Game Pass. This isn't a particularly good value proposition for most people, as while the Gears of War games are all exceptional, they're competing with expensive modern titles that offer a lot more for what you pay. I totally disagree with this. I think the majority of consumers that he's talking about, he's saying that, if you've already played the games on Xbox or even PC via Game Pass, the reality is that the biggest market is going to be, PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. And obviously, Gears of War has never been on PlayStation. And so now it's going to be on PlayStation, which means that the majority of consumers are completely untapped at this point in time. So basically, there is a massive amount of people who have never played Gears of War before because they're playing on PlayStation and they just don't have an Xbox or whatever the case may be. And so them releasing Gears of War Reloaded on PlayStation as well as on Xbox is massive. And so the same thing can be said for the other 2 titles, that being like a Gears of War 2 Reloaded, a Gears of War 3 Reloaded. I think that, in my mind, this is going to grow Gears of War as a whole because you're tapping into the PlayStation market as well. So I don't even think that they've even scratched the surface of what Gears of War's true potential is, because it's only been an Xbox exclusive at this point. So we'll have to wait and see when it releases on PlayStation how well it does there as well. Gears of War on PlayStation is a remarkable feat in 2025 and something that illustrates just how far we've come in regard to making all of gaming accessible to as many people as possible. It is also yet another nail in the console wars coffin, something that I'm rather happy about. However, as great as it is that PlayStation fans, including myself, get to finally experience the majesty of Gears of War, I just wish there was some benefit for Xbox players beyond simply relying on Xbox Game Pass and never truly owning anything. I see where he's coming from here, but at the same time, I'm totally good with Xbox Game Pass, guys. I think about it and I'm like, it's got a massive library of games. Yeah, they do, change out certain games and certain titles at different points in time, kind of like Netflix does with their movies and shows. But the way I see it is Xbox Game Pass has really opened up a lot of potential within gaming. And so I'm totally cool with Xbox Game Pass. And with Gears of War E-Day releasing day 1 on Xbox Game Pass, with Gears of War Reloaded, launching day 1 on Xbox Game Pass, It's awesome because I just need the subscription. I don't need to go out and buy a physical copy and stuff. And yeah, there is definitely something to be said for physical copies or even just purchasing it and downloading it digitally on your Xbox. It's cool, but at the same time, I love, Xbox Game Pass. I think it's one of the best inventions within gaming, and PlayStation Premium Plus is also up there. I think it's great overall, and I'm really happy that PlayStation fans get to experience one of my favorite games of all time, that being Gears of War. It's going to be awesome to see PlayStation people get their hands on this title. I believe one of the, most well-regarded franchises in Xbox's history. I mean, I would say you put that in Halo up there as kind of 1A, 1B, however you want to look at it. But PlayStation players getting a chance to play Gears of War for the first time is going to be something really special. Those who already own Gears of War Ultimate Edition will get to upgrade to Reloaded for free, which is a nice touch as it means Xbox and PC users won't have to shell out for a game they already own. However, I don't see that happening with a potential Gears of War 2 and 3 remaster, as there's no equivalent for Xbox users to upgrade from. Even if every Xbox user owned Gears of War Ultimate Edition and upgraded for free, they're still paying $80 for 2 remasters, which is, in my opinion, far too much. I think it is difficult at the moment to be invested in gaming as a hobby and not feel the crushing financial burden it brings with it. Gaming shouldn't be so expensive, but it is, and that is a genuine shame. I had hoped that a Gears of War Trilogy collection would have made that burden a little easier for fans who've supported the series since the start, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I hope everyone enjoys Gears of War Reloaded, but I also hope that the next 2 remasters are priced a little more reasonably. And I totally disagree. I mean, this notion that gaming is getting too expensive, guys, I'm totally with you. When we think of where gaming was and where it is now, it's actually quite shocking to me that games are not over $100 as it is. Because when I think about it, you go back a decade, games across the industry, AAA titles, were priced at $59.99, and it was kind of like a standard across the industry. And guess what? It took years upon years for those prices to change. So when we think about it, if inflation's going up, the prices of everything else is going up, the price of going to a movie, the next Avengers or whatever, those prices went up, but gaming stayed the same for so long, a decade or more. It stayed the exact same in terms of prices. And now all of a sudden, as the prices have gone up, a lot of people are getting upset about it, up in arms about it. And I understand the frustration of it being gaming is it's expensive. But at the same time, you have to realize if we want higher quality games, and the cost of these games is, it's becoming more and more expensive to make these games. When you think about it, GTA 5 costed $200 million. I think GTA 4 costed $100 million. And GTA 6 is going to cost $2 billion. So the price of these games is going up. How are they going to make that money so that we can continue to get great games into the future if everything stays at the same price of $59.99? I'm willing to pay the money for these games as long as the quality continues to go up. If we get to a point in time, guys, where the games, there's not enough innovation or whatever the case might be, that's where it's going to be really difficult for a lot of these AAA studios and stuff to stay open or to stay profitable. Because if people aren't buying the game because it's too expensive and the game's not good, it's going to really hurt. But I also think that we're moving into a time within gaming history where different games are going to have different prices. Just because GTA 6 is $100 doesn't mean that the next Call of Duty is going to be $100. It doesn't mean that the next Assassin's Creed is going to be $100. What it means is that I think now different games are going to get different prices. So, the bigger the flagship title within some of these studios, the more it's probably going to be. Or they're going to charge top dollar for those games. So Gears of War and Halo will probably both be $80 games. But then some of their other titles that come out may be $70 or maybe even $60. It just really ranges. There's no more of the, industry standard $60 across the board. Now it's going to be changing. And I think Nintendo kind of started that with Mario Kart World versus Donkey Kong Bonanza. And so we're seeing this happen. And so I totally disagree with this notion that gaming is like too expensive. Yeah, it's getting expensive, guys, but you have to realize that gaming will go nowhere if the prices still stay at, you know, $60. It's just one of those things where the price does need to go up. Now, do I think it needs to jump $20 year over year or $30 year over year? Absolutely not. What I'm saying is if GTA 6 says this is a $100 price tag for this title, everybody's going to still pay $100 for it because they know, okay, it's going to be worth it for sure. I do think that with the higher prices that are going, you know, into games as a whole, I do think that a number of people will start to be a little bit more picky about which games they purchase. But I also think this is part of the reason why Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Premium Plus are so awesome, because you just pay for the subscription and a lot of these games come out, you know, day one on Xbox Game Pass. So to me, I would love to hear from all of you guys what you guys think about this, though. This is a great talking point, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Are you willing to pay extra for really good titles, or are you more along the lines of gaming is just getting too expensive from a hobby perspective, get way more picky about the games that you're playing or the games that you're purchasing? Or does the price not necessarily matter to you? Whatever you guys think, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. And for more Gears of War Reloaded content and videos, keep it right here.